Welcome back, everybody. You thought we were done, but we aren't. We still got tiebreakers to do now. A three-way tie, and only two of those teams are moving on to the SPL. I'm Aggro, joined by Taco. And Taco, we've already seen this matchup today, Burrito versus Papis, and it was the Papis who came away with the victory last time.
And it's interesting enough because now that they've already had that experience playing off against the Papis, Burrito get a chance to really show whether or not they've had the opportunity to really grow and develop from that brief moment earlier today. And a lot of it's on the line considering, like you mentioned, it is a three-way tie at the moment.
Let's take a look at the standings so you can see that everyone's all stuck at 2 wins and 1 loss, except for New Game Plus. They went 0-3 today. But the other 3 teams, Burrito, Victoria's Secret, and the Papis, all sitting tied at top right now. So this is going to be our first matchup. Any team that gets 2 wins is automatically in right away. As soon as every team's going to play each other once. If one team wins twice, they are automatically in.
And it's going to be pretty close all around, just considering the fact that these teams are in this position to begin with. It just really goes to show that the competition is pretty close with everyone involved.
Yeah, this has been an awesome day here of Relegations to start it off here for the fall split of Relegations. EU was, it's been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, the games have been pretty long. They've been pretty intense, but we're already ready to go here for the tiebreaker. Picks and bans between Burrito and the Papis. As we mentioned, these two already faced off against one another, and the Papis were the one who came away with the victory. What adjustments do you think Burrito needed to make from that first game loss to them?
MrNazer's positioning was pretty flawless on that. Giannis, he did an impeccable job getting his team in and out, more particularly in. But I think Skadi seems to be a pretty prevalent theme for today. We don't count Game Hunter's loss on her because he got a pentakill.
Sure.
And that is a victory within itself.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But all these teams today have really been leaning towards that God pick.
Well, no Skadi ban quite yet here. It's Hell and Terra for the Papis, Odin, and the Morrigan banned away by Burrito. So now Papis have that first pick. Yeah, as you mentioned, MrNazer looked pretty good on that Giannis, but it is going to be Skadi first pick here, likely for Warchi.
Wow.
Wow, there it is.
There's a Skadi pick, and all around just pretty strong lane presence. Although putting Skadi at your first pick, sure, you have a little bit of flexibility. You could potentially put her into the mid lane. I'd anticipate her going into the duo, though. She tends to be a little bit safer there,
sure,
able to avoid ganks a little bit more easily, and especially with Ravana and Wukong, both excellent gods for trying to chase down and lock down a Skadi.
Love this Ravana pick because Dheylo, the Papis jungler, has looked phenomenal on Ravana all day long. Take it out of his hands, make sure that he can't play it. Erlang, Shen going to be the pick here for the Papis, and Camazotz. So solo jungle locked in for both sides already.
And you can tell that both of these teams just seem pretty ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, with how quickly the picks and bans are advancing, they are just absolutely determined in what they want to run. And with Ganesha being locked in for Burrito, that is a pretty dangerous front line.
Fusify definitely seems to favor this Ganesha in that support role, and if Burrito's able to get a comfort pick like that in a high-stakes situation like this one, I think it's a great pick for them. Geb the ban by Burrito. Papis immediately towards that Chronos, which has been played by Kespainify multiple times so far today. Burrito seems to really like that physical hunter mid, magical ADC in the duo lane, and Freya's still on the table, at least until the second ban. Papis might go that direction. You were right, by the way, MrNazer not playing Giannis.
And I mean, respect to Burrito for making that decision. They already saw what it did to them once earlier today, not looking to have any sort of deja vu happening. And I really appreciate the Chronos and Freya bans for the Papis, just because now they won't have to worry about gods that could potentially have a lot of comeback potential versus their lineup.
But Thoth has a lot of late game potential. That comeback could be there, and DeathPanter pretty comfortable on this mid laner. A Zeus here for MrNazer, a god that we haven't seen a lot of, and it paired with Khepri, a god that those two usually go pretty well together, just because Zeus very susceptible to getting jumped on. Khepri can save him from that situation, but in my mind, a lot of the reason that Zeus became less prevalent is because of warriors in the jungle. He does not do well against warriors. Ravana in particular is very difficult for Zeus to deal with, and the Papis pick it into the Ravana.
I think, though, with the Khepri, a Camazotz, and an Erlang, there's plenty of peeling and frontline potential that a Zeus can actually stay alive. And if you look at the CC as well for the side of the Papis, you're going to have that permafrost ability and the Zeus ultimate to drop down on top of that Dharmic Pillars in case Fusify and the rest of Burrito really try to collapse on top of that Zeus.
Have to wait and see. The Papis have plenty of AoE between that Lightning Storm and permafrost. Burrito have a decent amount, but not a lot really. The more you break it down, it's pretty single target CC, single target damage. You're looking at DeathPanter to be the one to spread out that damage throughout the team fight, or just execute the one person who's getting locked down by Dzoni and Sibi.
If there's definitely two players, though, for the Papis that have really been standing out for me today, it's been Dheylo and Dracomarino, just because you don't have to worry knowing that these two are on your side. They've had so much map awareness and team fighting awareness for the most part that they're able to keep their carries relatively safe. And Warchi being on Skadi on top of everything else is just going to provide Papis with a lot of comfort factors.
No doubt. I mean, Dheylo, as I mentioned, but Draco as well. Both these guys have had unbelievable days here in Relegations. Keep an eye on them. Dzoni also has had a pretty solid day overall. Had a great game last game we saw him on the Camazotz. So keep an eye on both of the junglers as MrNazer can't quite get the clear that he'd like. Teams realizing that against Zeus, you just kind of take that initial hit from the Aegis Assault, and then it kind of messes up his entire level 1 clear.
This might be a little bit of what teams aren't really anticipating, though, because it's been so long since anybody's had to play against a Zeus, particularly in the side of EU, that for MrNazer to bring it out, it really seems as though he leans towards these kind of different god picks.
And we mentioned that Robin does particularly well into Zeus, but MrNazer going for the Vampiric Shroud, give him a little bit of extra physical protection, a little bit of extra health as well, trying to mitigate some of that damage that Dzoni, Sibi, and Kespainify will be putting out onto him. Plus, Zeus doesn't need to use a lot of abilities to clear. Aegis Assault, you keep it rank 1 anyways, so you're not using a lot of mana in that sort of scenario. So this Vampiric Shroud pickup actually makes a lot of sense on the Zeus mid lane. Another
strong factor, too, for the Papis is that it was actually Dheylo starting off in the solo lane alongside of the Erlang Shen, and because of that, they were able to safely secure their buffs. I believe that if it had been a more traditional start with the support maybe leaning towards that dual lane aspect, then they might have potentially fallen victim to buff invades. Now,
we've talked so much today, at least, about the meta going a little bit later, the game's going a little bit longer, and we've seen it in terms of total game time for sure. Multiple 45-minute games or longer today. Jing, one of the better late game hunters. Why is this the first time we're seeing her today?
Jing is kind of just one of those hunters where she's not necessarily ideal against a Skadi, but the one nice factor that Jing has in her kit is just how safe she is to play. If Chronos and Freya are banned out, you lose a lot of the boxing potential. Could have potentially looked for a Ram, but on the Jing I think that since crit is now back in favor, she's probably one of the best gods for utilizing that.
Plus, I mean, doesn't she utilize Devourer's Gauntlets fairly well?
Yes.
She can back and get those pretty early and not worry about the lack of rotation?
Definitely, and on top of that, he did opt for the more traditional start of the Boomba's Death Soul, or at least the more popular start, I should say. And, well, either way, while he might not necessarily have the laning pressure, you can already tell that Warchi is, in fact, pushing that lane out by himself. Zero problems whatsoever. But just having that safety net between his knock-up and his dash with the extra movement speed and the ultimate, you won't really have to worry about a whole lot.
Two different styles of builds here between the two supports. Lono's Mask for Fusify, and then realizing that he was lacking some movement speed, he picks up that Swift Wing. On the other side, Dracomarino forgoes the Lono's Mask and just rushes those Traveler's Shoes. Do you think we see the Swift Wing because of the Traveler's start by Draco, or do you think Fusify would have gone for it anyways?
I feel as though Draco is going to try and rush a little bit of physical protection just because the most potent gods right now on the side of Burrito is by far the Ravana and the Sun Wukong. Granted, you're probably not going to anticipate too many rotations from that Sun Wukong just because he's kind of confined to that solo lane for a little bit. Ravana still packs quite a punch at the early stages of the game, and it's enough so where a Khepri should probably be prioritizing movement over anything else.
And a Jade Emperor's Crown early on would certainly help MrNazer, Dheylo, just about anybody who's going to be around these physical damage dealers. Not a particularly quick start to this game, and like we mentioned, with games going later, that's not too much of a surprise. Teams don't really like to take the risk of giving up an early lead, even if they aren't as impactful as they used to be.
Both of these drafts, though, considering the mid to late game stages that we've become pretty accustomed to seeing these games evolve into, I think they're equally strong. They both have pluses and minuses, and I think the big thing for the Papis to keep an eye on will be Dheylo's positioning, MrNazer, and just how well Warchi can utilize this Skadi permafrost.
And how well can Draco keep characters like Dheylo and MrNazer alive, and Skadi as well. I mean, those are all characters, and not so much Camazotz, but certainly Zeus and Skadi that can fall victim to a quick focus fire, especially when you're talking about abilities like Mystic Rush that not only give Ravan 50% damage mitigation, but also make a target that he hits take 10% more damage from all sources.
Probably one of the main focuses for Burrito Esports is going to be Dzoni on this Ravan, or even Sibi, once the rotations start becoming a factor, trying to separate the Papis, because if their draft is all together, that's an incredibly hard team fight to counteract. But if Sibi or Dzoni could separate even one member of the Papis, it can then become incredibly difficult because Draco's going to have to make a decision for who he wants to protect.
I think one of the things about Ravan Jungle that flies under the radar about how potent it is the fact that you really don't have to get Purification Beads or Aegis, and instead can get a teamfight relic like Sprint here for Dzoni. That means that Burrito's going to have 2 sprints to the 1 for the Papis. Now, they could have had 2 if they decided to go sprint for Creed, but then they'd be lacking the shell that Burritos still have. So you've got 3 teamfight relics starting at level 1, basically, for Burrito, whereas Papis, they only have 2 to work with, and that can be really difficult to deal with in early team fights.
And the double sprint is probably every Zeus's worst nightmare. Sure, you can maybe avoid it one time around, and maybe a Khepri ultimate can save you another, but trying to completely run away every single time, again, it's just going to come down to how well can MrNazer position on a god that's not Giannis with the free escape. And
Draco,
speaking of positioning,
he's in a lot of trouble here. Sprint pop. There's the taunt by Creed as well, just to continue that CC chain. Sibi up into the somersault cloud in case of any further aggression from MrNazer. A couple ultimates used. That lone sprint for the Papis gets Draco out of danger, as the initial target was Dzoni, but still a Ravan, man. Even if he's building like a traditional assassin, still gonna be hard to kill him.
And already MrNazer just trying to bide his time in this mid lane, not even trying to push outside of the tower line. He knows that the sprint is down from Draco and that 2 of his teammates are in a lane very far away from him, so doesn't want to risk any early deaths.
Neither duo lane member, neither of the Hunters has really seen any rotations from either of their teams. I think both supports have split 1 wave in the duo lane so far, and that's really about it, and that's why you see XP per minute charts on the left side. It's Kespainify and Warchi on top. And as we mentioned, Kespainify can go for the Devourer's Gauntlets, and that's looking like the route he will choose, whereas Warchi going for the more traditional Transcendence on an ability-based hunter like Skadi.
And this is probably the perfect situation for both of these hunters. Both of them would ideally want to be left alone. Jing Wei because she wants to get those Devourer's Gauntlets online, and then Skadi wants to be left alone because obviously you just exert so much laning pressure. If nobody's there to try and save the enemy ADC, you kind of just get to have your way with them to a certain extent.
And you can see that Skadi is going to be a little bit less safe, and because of that, the Papis are warding a little bit more heavily on that left-hand side. Only 2 wards in total, but that's doubling the amount that the Burrito has, and both those wards are aggressively placed to give Warchi that information, because you expect Warchi to be pushing up onto the enemy tower line with the excellent clear that Skadi provides, as you mentioned, Taco, whereas Burrito actually giving a defensive ward to Kespainify to make sure that he's not going to get ganked with a surprise.
And that's really the big factor, or the big differentiating factor between these 2 teams, as Papis proceed to group up a little bit here, trying to secure this Oracle Vision, and it's going to be the Dharmic Pillars actually coming out from Burrito, but it doesn't make a difference, except that Thoth ultimate might.
Final Judgment hits 1. Dheylo gets out. Draco forced to revive himself, but he's going to fall anyways. First blood goes to Burrito Esports. They didn't get the Oracles, but they get what they would rather have anyways, the first kill of the game.
That was a beautiful Thoth ultimate by DeathPanter, just completely ruined the teamfight possibility for the Papis. And now because of it, though, getting a little bit too confident in that mid lane, doesn't have anything to follow up with. MrNazer with the return kill.
MrNazer gets the kill, but that's all Creed. He gets the taunt into the knockup, and Nazer throws out a little shield and gets credit for the kill. Papis even it up at 1 apiece. Now immediately to the Gold Fury. Dzoni and Fusify both very low. They're both going to back. Kespainify coming back from base, but it's going to be a tough ask to tell him to get here in time. Sibi can't quite close the gap either, and Papis get the first Gold Fury of the game.
And that's that early game damage, and the beauty of having a Skadi and a Zeus on your side. I mean, don't get me wrong, Camazotz certainly packs a punch as well, but all around, those 2 are more than capable of clearing out these objectives super early on, and Portal Demon isn't even available yet, so this is the perfect scenario for Papis.
That being said, Burrito still technically in the lead. I mean, it's not really a lead when you look at how close these gold numbers are, but that Gold Fury doesn't do a lot for the Papis in terms of getting ahead. Kespainify takes a decent chunk of damage from Warchi, and I can tell you from experience, that's only going to get worse as the game goes on. Caldier going to continue to become even more of a nightmare.
All that Warchi really needs to do is continue spamming his 1, because it's practically unavoidable as far as Jing is concerned, and because of that, you just get so much poke potential. Jing, though, is by far the best hunter to try and deal with this kind of scenario, just since she can back and come back in more easily, although that can potentially work against her should Papis just look to continuously force her out and little by little losing farm.
Poke is definitely less effective against Skadi than Jing against Jing than other hunters, and I agree with you there. And Devourer's Gauntlets can kind of mitigate that even more, where it's less scenarios where you need to back. But keep in mind that Skadi also has that 100-0 capability in lane, where you might not get a chance to back or sustain up with those Devo gloves.
Definitely don't want to be caught off guard and being forced out of your ultimate for any kind of silly reasoning, which again just kind of falls back to the ward placing by Burrito. And I like how they've opted to put a little bit more aggressive of a ward for their dual lane, just so they don't have to worry about those rotations from Dheylo on the underside or on the aggressive front.
Red buff goes to Warchi, continuing to try and push that lead in the duo lane. We've talked a lot about the duo lane matchup, but not a lot about this solo side. Sibi's got a slight lead over Creed, despite Creed getting the assist on the mid lane kill onto DeathPanter. I mean, this seems to me, Taco, that they're playing this lane pretty much. Creed is just saying, you can do whatever you want, Sibi. We're just going to meet in team fights and see who can do better there.
That seems to be the storyline for Erlang play today, is you won't necessarily be super far ahead as far as the lane pressure is concerned, but you can definitely still be incredibly effective with your rotations. And here is probably an ideal example. Sibi already has the lane cleared out because he's got the advantage with the Sun Wukong 1, but Creed can just shred away a little bit. It's just a fun slapboxing match all around.
Plus, Erlang Shen has that extra sustain in his kit, getting 2 procs of the Death Toll thanks to his little dog friend there next to him, so he's going to be able to sustain a little bit better than that of Sibi, but as you mentioned, Sibi, a little bit stronger wave clear, a little bit safer poke as well. But both gods do pretty similar things. They both have 72 transformations, and they both knock up and are a nightmare to deal with in team fights.
And this could potentially be a little bit of disaster for Sibi, but he's able to get his 72 transformations out of danger from that gank by Dheylo.
Well timed by Sibi, trying to interrupt that taunt coming out from Creed, and does so successfully. Rotation comes over. Fusify shows his elephant trunk in lane, but no real follow-up off the root from Dracomarino. Everyone pretty okay with farming at this stage. This is not too uncommon. I mean, usually relegations are pretty fast and loose, especially towards the beginning. But whenever you get into tiebreakers and you know that one loss here could end your SPL dreams for the fall, then teams tend to tighten it up a little bit.
And it's even crazier because these are the two teams that were already in the SPL, so a loss against the other could definitely take a bit of a punch to the morale.
That's a good point. I mean, these teams played each other during the regular season. I believe Papis took a 2-0 there against Burrito. Burrito did not finding a lot of success during the SPL regular season, but that was with Oho Boom in the mid lane instead of MrNazer. Then the lone roster changes. Dzoni gets abducted, but a well-timed silence from Fusify interrupts that channeled pull, something that can be really annoying to deal with as a Khepri player, is that your pool can get interrupted in a multitude of ways.
I think the big thing is whether or not Fusify can try and find the silences later on onto Draco to prevent him from dropping that ultimate onto one of his carries, because I can almost guarantee that Ravana and the Sun Wukong are going to be more than happy to try and dive bomb the Zeus off cooldown.
That's a good point. I mean, the plan has always been to just interrupt the Khepri before you can get that ultimate off. As on the left-hand side, Warchi in a bit of trouble. Dharmic Pillar has come down, but now he's trying to turn it around onto Fusify, who already has used his dash. There's the abduct right onto the permafrost. Big damage. MrNazer shows up, but doesn't even get a single charge, which is all he really would have needed. The sprint forward, the Aegis Assault, Chain Lightning not going to close the gap, and Fusify gets away with it. On the right-hand side, Burrito, recognizing this massive rotation to the left, they start up the Portal Demon.
And it's going to be entirely onto Creed to try and defend this one. He is able to present a little bit of pressure, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. It is actually going to fall away of Burrito, but the Gold Fury was definitely secured by the Papis.
Well played there. Papis say you can take that Portal Demon, as they did end up getting that. Creed now on the run. No ultimate available for him. Johnny used his as well. Creed going to fall here. No! Actually, Draco shows up right in the nick of time. I don't think I think Burrito was just as surprised as I was to see that Scarab's Blessing come up. Creed does not get punished for playing aggressive on that right side, so Papis come away with a Gold Fury and not dropping a kill.
And the potential turnaround onto Sibi if he's not careful. Creed's not ready to let this one go just yet. He's got the pin locked down, forcing Sibi up into the ultimate. I think he's going to be safe for the moment. Nobody else really around from the Papis to try and punish him any further, but successful buff defense as well.
Well played by the Papis. So even though they dropped that kill on the Fusify, it ends up not really mattering too much. I mean, sure, a kill for MrNazer at this stage of the game would be nice, but I think his team would rather have the Gold Fury, as would he's looking for some penetration. He's finished off this Warlock Sash, really committing to a defensive style of play with this build.
And I really like the fact that he would opt for the Warlocks, because you know you're going to need health against a composition that has so much chase down potential. And speaking of chase down, it's going to be Creed again, a little bit of danger. Johnny this time around trying to put the pressure on Sibi, using the horrific emblem, but he's dived into the tower because of Creed's ultimate.
Fusify lays down the pillars, and now Dheylo's trying to get out. He jukes out the final judgment, but not the auto attack. DeathPanter gets credit. Sibi getting pretty low, but a big shell coming out of his own kit there. That first relic pickup was the shell, and it saved Sibi's life. Not a lot of damage onto the Zeus quite yet. Dheylo didn't have his ultimate available at the wrong time, and Fusify trying to steal away the speed, but Detonate secures it.
And these team fighting relics for Burrito are just coming up massive, and now it's going to be Creed. Draco pops a sprint, trying to get his team to catch up, but they're already out.
This is a little bit of miscommunication there between Draco and Creed. Draco pops a sprint and says, let's get in there, and Creed says, I don't have a lot for you there, buddy. Everyone gets away. But again, Papis making the most out of a bad situation, trying to get the tower. Abduct actually interrupted there by Fusify, stunned out, knocked up as well. Draco does get the Scarab's Blessing off. There's going to be a lot of damage waiting for him. Sibi gets knocked down by MrNazer right before the Somersault Cloud goes off. Draco survives because of it.
MrNazer better hope that speed buff's enough to get him away from Johnny, but it does appear as though it will suffice. And massive turnaround. I really thought that Draco was going to be toast there.
Fusify, rooted under tower, but does escape as Dheylo's back and blinks in right onto Johnny. Johnny does have his ultimate available, but playing patient, knows he doesn't need to use it right away. Good job there by the Burrito Esports jungler. Make sure that he can escape without using that really impactful Mystic Rush.
Even though Dheylo's already gotten one death in this game, Camazotz still just hits so hard. And just look at how much it chunked him from that single 2.
But that being said, Dheylo's only got 3,000 player damage right now. Not the sort of pace-setting jungle presence that he had when he was playing the Ravana. So even if Johnny isn't necessarily carrying the game like he could have on, say, Camazotz, it's ended up working out because it's taking Dheylo out of his comfort zone.
2 kills, though, onto MrNazer are pretty important, I would say, right now for the Zeus in particular. It's approaching more towards that mid-game stage, and having those kills locked down on top of just acquiring more stacks of that Warlock Sash and picking up the Obsidian Shard, it's going to provide him with enough damage to start turning on that dive bomb potential. Obsidian
Shard definitely a huge pickup here for MrNazer, and I like that. I like that we're seeing the Obsidian Shard and not the Spear of Desolation that's become pretty popular. It's a lot cheaper, and with going for something expensive like Warlock Sash, you're already kind of behind your build. Though DeathPanter has also gone for something expensive in that second item slot, Book of the Dead, instead of the usual Bancroft's Talon. Why do you think we see Book here instead of Bancroft's?
That's a ton of health as well, just because you have the 200 health, you get a guaranteed lifesteal pretty much. Thoth has a lot of secure damage, I would say, just because it's pretty easy to connect with a lot of his kit. He has so much range as well that you just want that constant poke out, and with the magical power that that item already provides, that's tons of capability.
You look at Draco and Fusify, they both have the exact same build, except for the fact that Fusify has 2 starter items, or 3 technically, to only 1 for Dracomarino. But that being said, Fusify should be ahead in terms of overall gold from not only the Lono's mask that he built that Draco did not, but whenever he goes to sell one of these items, should end up being that he should finish his next power item before Draco can.
I almost wish that Swiftwing was a Reyna's mask instead. Just for
You've been playing
the
too much
mass,
ranked.
just for the mass purposes.
You've been playing too much ranked, Taco. Ranked it has no place here, at least on supports, okay? Jungler is fine. I can get down with that. Maybe even a hunter if you really feel confident, but supports? What good does Pen do supports?
Yeah, are you kidding me? Have you seen Ganesha's damage?
It's not. It doesn't need any pen. I can tell you that much. Warchi gets poked out to about 2/3 HP. Dark Pillars come down, and Draco is just locked right on top of him. He's going to fall. Johnny, the one with the kill. Creed, 2-man root, 1-man knockup as DeathPanter uses the purification beads. Dheylo now the focus, falling low very quickly. He goes up into an ultimate of his own. Sibi locked down by the ult from Warchi, but not enough to find the kill. Kespainify going aggressive in with that dash, but having airstrike available to get out if necessary means that no one even looks twice at him.
With the Skadi ultimate being down, that provides the possibility for Jingwei to play on the offensive because you know you're not going to get rooted in place immediately after dashing typically.
That's in Kespainify playing to that kit strength usually because just so much mobility. And it's a hunter late game. And hunters late game do damage. It doesn't really matter what your abilities are. If you're building things like Execution or Poison Star, you're going to be doing damage to someone.
And that 20% slow as well on the Poison Star, as well as the increased crit chance to 20%, is going to be pretty impactful considering that Jingwei's second ability is not only a slightly larger range of attack, but it just gives you the crit already.
That's a good point, and not a lot of people, I think, bring that up about Jingwei's explosive bolts. It's just a massive projectile. It's really, really big. It makes it a lot easier to hit your auto attacks, and of course does splash damage as well. Knockback minions, though. No, we're getting past the point of the laning phase, so that's not quite as impactful, but giving yourself that extra crit chance certainly does make a big difference. Just a matter of, can Kespainify handle the front line of the Papis? Crit, obviously excellent against squishy characters, but does he have enough pen with just the Executioner in order to kill characters like Draco and Creed?
Well, speaking of which, Johnny more than happy to chip away at that T1 tower in the solo lane, winning the solo lane, in fact, for Sibi, because everybody knows it's the first tower that determines who wins the lane.
Congratulations, Sibi. You won the solo lane. Your prize, 100 gold, and 100 gold to the rest of your teammates, because that's how much Tier 1 towers give. 22 minutes in, Burrito Esports, they're up 3-2 in kills, but the gold lead, there is none to talk about. Burrito pulls the Gold Fury already down to about 50% HP. Kespainify's the only one on it. I don't know if anyone from Papis can get in here in time. Warchi trying to. It gets dropped as MrNazer drops an ultimate. Warchi going to use that Scarab's Blessing and sprint to get out of danger. Sibi waiting and lurking on top of MrNazer. Dheylo looking to chase down Johnny, but not enough damage, only hitting 1 out of 3 of those swoops. And Burrito don't get the Gold Fury, but they might take the fight here. Dheylo's going to take a lot of damage from that final Judgment. Shell comes out from the Papis. Dheylo's still on the run until Sibi hits it with the Jingu Bang. 4 now for Burrito Esports. 5-on-4 in total. Kespainify backs. He's already here. Shouts the Jingwei passive. And now Burrito has a choice. Do they want to go for this Tier 1 middle or try again on the Gold Fury?
Shouts to the commitment as well from DeathPanter. And his team was so confident that he was going to land that nobody bothered backing off into the T1 tower despite having already expended a couple of their ultimates. And now it's going to be the Papis looking to maybe play aggressive on the Gold Fury even though they're a man down.
Kaldir almost just chewed up Kespainify all by himself. Warchi forced the Aegis from Kespainify when he was Aegising himself on the run from the pressure from Burrito Esports. Back to base goes Jingwei, and back to the Gold Fury she comes. No time down, and now with MrNazer heading towards the back right Harpies, thought it might be an opportunity for Burrito to pull, but the ward coverage by the Papis lets them know that MrNazer cannot afford to go to those back right Harpies because Gold Fury could be getting soloed down again by Kespainify.
I'm really loving this mildly hybrid build. It's not that uncommon anymore to see a shifter shield still being picked up on hunters such as Skadi just because she can utilize the damage so well. I love the Dharmic Pillar zoning ultimate. Burrito, though, choosing to not actually commit into the Gold Fury. Instead, they're going to commit onto Creed. He's in his ultimate, but he's also getting saved by the Khepri ult.
Scarab's Blessing does it. Not enough to find the kill quite yet, but man, did Burrito want it. Sprint still going. 72 transformation, and the shield gets out of danger. Creed, he's gone. Now Sibi's still trying to make it happen. Johnny takes a lot of damage from Warchi. He's 1 HP, and Kaldir's going to claim that one. Dheylo wants to continue the chase, but Sibi, Fusify, and DeathPanter still on the run. Slow onto Fusify, not enough, but the Blink's going to close the gap. Sibi falls to Dheylo, but all the while, Gold Fury, I think he got started there by Kespainify. No, it might have been the oracles that those two hunters fought over. But either way, Kespainify airstrikes away, and now it's Papis' turn to try and get the objective.
And there is plenty of shred potential again for the Papis, and it is going to be a third Gold Fury of the game in favor of the Papis.
But that's 3 Gold Furies, Taco, and the gold lead is 2,500. I mean, it's not really a lot. Creed in some trouble on the top right side, but so is DeathPanter as down comes the Darbic Pillars. DeathPanter is going to claim Creed before anyone from the Papis is there to assist. Take a look at the team fight recap. Papis ended up doing way more damage than Burrito there, and only resulting in 2 kills, but enough pressure to force everyone out and get the objective.
Burrito were just barely managing to buy enough time to keep backing and coming back in until eventually Papis were finally able to secure a couple of picks, and then they could no longer really afford to hang around that area. Actually super fortunate that Dheylo kind of poked his head around this portal demon, but with Creed still being dead for 20 more seconds, it just kind of opens up this portal for no response from the Papis.
Only Dheylo on the right side of the map that was even close, and without the blink, without the ultimate, it'd be a pretty difficult contest.
They're going
now
for
the
it.
Fire Giant pull here from Burrito. Kespainify's got quite a bit of objective damage with the crit build and can tank it up with those Devo gloves, but still not enough to give Burrito enough confidence to try and pull it off all at once. They decide they've gotten enough for the moment and they'll back up.
This poke from DeathPanter as well, he's just been trying to utilize it at every single possible opportunity, dropping that wall and just the extended poke, and that's pretty much ideal Thoth gameplay. That's all you really want whenever your mid laner is picking a god with such range.
And almost has that Rod of Tahuti completed as well, so that poke just going to become more and more significant. I wonder if it's worth MrNazer going for something like a Stone of Fall here. Stone of Fall, an excellent item up against Thoth. I mean, we see it pretty consistently, and that's that Thoth is going to erase someone in the late game with Final Judgment. Stone of Fall makes it so you can't take more than a percentage of your HP from one magical ability, and Final Judgment will not one-shot you anymore, just do about 1/3 of your HP. But MrNazer does already have the Warlock stash. Is that enough survivability to not worry about Final Judgment?
I think he's banking more on Draco with the Khepri res to kind of bail him out of those sort of scenarios where he might potentially die to that. But I kind of want to see Draco actually pick up that item, because I feel as though Burrito might just try to isolate the Khepri and force him to burn his ult on himself.
There's the damage onto Sibi. Quite a bit of damage onto Sibi. Chain Lightning. In case you forgot, it has been a little bit since Zeus was played. Chain Lightning and Detonate still hurts quite a bit as a combo. It did force Sibi back to base, but even without a Swift Wing, 72 transformations gets him back fast enough that Papis don't feel comfortable to pull the Fire Giant. Instead, they're going to try and knock down this Tier 1 tower and right.
And just look at DeathPanter again, just slowly but surely chipping away at Dheylo's health. And now the engage is actually going to be coming out from Burrito as Sprint is popped by Draco. Everybody's just trying to get outside of the Zeus ultimate.
MrNazer about half HP. Final Judgment doesn't come out from DeathPanter. Instead, he's got to worry about Caldier as Sibi uses an ultimate of his own. DeathPanter looking for the stun off of Aiden Punish. Not going to be able to close the gap. Sibi's clone still running everyone from the Papis back to their Tier 2 tower. No Fire Giant pull. Burrito not quite healthy enough for that, but Tier 1 tower in mid, that seems doable.
Excellent reset by the Papis. Need to be careful now not to get caught in this avenue facing off against a Thoth. It is going to be Sibi as the focus of attention by Warchi. They know he doesn't have his ultimate available, and Kaldar is absolutely destroying.
Great stun there by DeathPanter. Saves the life of Kespainify and knocks down Dheylo, but Sibi cannot survive himself. Warchi finds the other frontliner, Fusify, a 2-for-1. Dheylo making it happen, just basically single-handedly chasing Kespainify down to 10 HP and out of the fight.
Unfortunate that he ended up losing his life at the very end of it, but either way, whenever you're pushing out the enemy team's hunter and making sure that they don't have that damage ready for those team fights, it just makes it all too easy for Warchi to clean up.
This game is as close as it gets at 29 minutes, 6-6 in kills, about 1,500 gold between the two teams. Experience difference, probably not too big, though. DeathPanter is sitting at level 20, whereas MrNazer is still at level 18. Both these teams, the two defending SPL teams, trying to, well, defend their SPL spots here in Relegations. If you're just joining us, we are in tiebreakers. Both the Papis, Burrito Esports, they are sitting at 2-1, as well as Victoria's Secret, 2-1 on the day. So we've got a 3-way tiebreaker. This is game 1 of those tiebreakers. Any team that wins 2 is in, and any team that loses 2 is out. Pretty simple.
It's just all in, go big or go home right now for the remaining teams.
They're probably already at home. I can't imagine playing somewhere that wasn't home.
You never know, honestly, but you're probably right on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, I'm usually the one who gets those stupid comments, and I'm in your chair, and I'm saying, why do I have to work with these idiots? So I'd figure I'd try it from this side, and you know, I kind of understand why they do it now. That felt good.
It shouldn't.
Oracles go down in favor of Burrito Esports. Gold Fury is available, but at this stage of the game, doesn't really matter too much. I mean, no one's 6-slotted quite yet. Everyone still has at least an item and a half to complete. So Gold Fury will help, but not as much as, say, a Fire Giant would. 2-man taunt from Creed right into the ultimate from MrNazer, but not a lot of damage onto either of the targets. DeathPanter charging that final judgment, decides against it as Dzoni exits to the right and down by the enemy back harpies. Sibi getting chased out by Caldir and Skadi. So now the Papis go for the Gold Fury. Remember, Burrito got the Oracles, they've got the Vision, and DeathPanther's got the ultimate. Could try and fire it off, and he will, but it's a little bit too early. Papis claim their 4th Gold Fury of the game, but MrNazer, he's all alone on the right-hand side. Sprint gets him out of danger for the moment, but he's got to be careful here.
I'm not sure what the turnaround was all about, but when you have a Khepri on your side, pretty much anything is possible. He might be able to escape. The Aegis is going to buy him a little bit of time, but meanwhile on the backside, Dheylo dies to Kespainify, and now the chase is on from Burrito.
Yeah, MrNazer lives, but Dheylo and Warchi don't. Draco's not going to either. MrNazer just baited Papis into a horrible fight on that bottom right-hand side. They lose 3, Burrito lose none. Portal Demon's available, but they might not even need to go for that here, Taco. Could just be the Fire Giant.
They're not looking to waste any time, and I don't blame them. They have so much burst potential onto this Fire Giant. They just need to collect it and then collect the rest of the maps on, or the rest of the towers on the map.
I think MrNazer's checking the right side there to make sure that Burrito isn't doing the Fire Giant while the Papis are doing the Gold Fury, but I mean, you got to give up Portal Demon in that sort of scenario. The problem there is there's no ward coverage for the Papis on the right-hand side near the Fire Giant. Bottom right side's warded, but nothing else is. And so if Nazer walks in there, as he does, and gets caught out, as he did, then it baits the Papis into a bad fight. And whether Burrito was doing the Fire Giant or not, they got it now.
I mean, for one thing's for sure, I understand face checking as a mage can be incredibly risky. You could tell he was being a little hesitant around that corridor, but at the very least, he shouldn't have tried to turn around, hit the backpedaling chain lightning onto the Raven. I mean, the Raven had a speed buff anyway, and at the most, he's going to get a few stacks in on him, maybe a little bit of poke damage, but risking the collapse that his team just experienced is ultimately never worth it.
Burrito Esports now in control, 9-6 in kills, but the bigger total is that Fire Giant's on 5 members of Burrito, all of them with the buff. Tier 2 tower and left, that's gone. That's another 1,500 gold, getting them closer to that full build mark, but more importantly, exposing the enemy Phoenixes. Tier 2 tower is a lot tankier than they used to be, but still not enough to withstand a near full build level 20 Fire Giant buffed Jing Wei.
And even with having the Fire Giant, though, Burrito, I like how they're still executing this tower siege with caution. They know that one misplay could potentially lead to them wiping against the Papis. Papis still have plenty of damage between the Zeus, Camazotz, and Skadi to lock down any of the squishy targets on Burrito.
That's true, but at the same time, I mean, you look at how many towers Burrito has up, still defending their base. Papis could get a deicide here, and I don't know if they would have time to end. I mean, that Titan would be so tanky, and the Tier 2 towers are so tanky now, the Phoenixes are so tanky now. You have to be very healthy in order to tank up both of those things, and then the Titan after that.
They wouldn't have time to end, even if the Papis were to find a deicide and ideally keep their damage carries intact, but at the very least, you could probably pick up a Phoenix.
Sure, but even Burrito's not in danger of losing off of this next team fight. Can't say the same for the Papis. They are certainly in danger of falling down 0-1 with this first relegation tiebreaker match between the Papis and Burrito. Victoria's Secret will be playing next. Papis and Burrito getting down to the wire here, 34 minutes, and Phoenix Siege about to begin. About a minute left on this Fire Giant. Spear of Desolation now completed for DeathPanter. Still waiting on what could be a Spear of the Magus or a Divine Ruin. Those are the only other options left in that tree with both Obsidian Shard and Spear of Deso complete as Creed and Sibi trade knockups with their animal transformations, but neither take any damage at all.
Just the classic solo laner kind of a slapping potential. It doesn't change from level 1 to level 20. It's all the same for solo laners.
It's just a matter of how much damage the minions are doing to you. That's really the only change that happens in terms of solo laners fighting, as MrNazer puts out that Chain Lightning, decent damage, but better damage on a Dracomarino. He gets hit by that final judgment. Dheylo never got a chance to use his ultimate. He gets shredded down by Kespainify. The crit's coming up huge. Creed locked in. Big damage onto him, but the 72 transformations gets him out of danger, as does the ultimate from Dracomarino. MrNazer found a pretty decent ultimate there, but 2 shells make it so it's very difficult to do any sort of burst damage. Nazer can't quite find the kill. Middle Phoenix falls. Right side Phoenix now the focus for Burrito.
Poor MrNazer just wasn't in range close enough to drop his ultimate immediately after Creed found such a beautiful taunt ultimate. But now, without any ultimates available other than Dheylo, who's dead, Burrito are going to more than easily siege that Phoenix, just back off, retreat, spend that gold, and things are getting pretty rough right now for the Papis.
Portal Demon should respawn within a minute. It spawns a little bit after that Fire Giant, so not much longer, and I think Burrito could probably just stick around and wait, try and make their siege happen a little bit quicker, get back to this Fire Giant, or just back by now and get ready for the big guy who's about to spawn in 25. Burrito decide they want to do that. Try and finish up some of these last key items. Kespainify, full build. Fusify, full build. DeathPanter very, very close. Dzoni and Sibi. Johnny's full build. Sibi, 1 tier away.
My issue here for the Papis is Zeus is great at turtling underneath a Titan, but Burrito have so much distance damage that I'm not sure it's going to really make enough of a difference to really prevent Burrito from sieging that Titan room. And Papis can't even contest the current Fire Giant, and even if they were to try to, it's just gone way too fast.
Very, very quickly. No Portal Demon for
It's all or
Burrito.
nothing.
A little surprised by that. May as well take that, but by the time you make it all the way to the left side Phoenix and get poked out, it probably would have been gone anyways, so not too much of a loss here for the team that's in the lead on the red side. That's Burrito Esports. The team in Papis, these are the 2 SPL teams as we mentioned. Papis had a lot more success during their time in the SPL than Burrito did, and it would kind of be a little ironic that Burrito could be the team that knocks him out as DeathPanter's already dead. Where did he go? Skadi makes it happen. Nazer gets credit. Here comes Lightning Storm down from the Papis mid laner. Not to find a kill quite yet, but good damage off that Chain Lightning detonation combination. Kespainify knocked down to below half HP. Burrito's push negated just like that.
The big thing here, out of that engagement, DeathPanter dropped the purification beads, but his Aegis only just came up. It was still on cooldown for about 6 seconds around the time when he was just getting absolutely bursted by the Papis. And sure, beads will get you out of that route from the Skadi ultimate, but it won't save you from taking the damage either way. That was the lucky break that Papis really needed.
Warchi just lays down the ice, and DeathPanter comes sliding right into his clutches. Permafrost is a good ability, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Permafrost hurts my feelings greatly.
That actually makes a lot of sense because we always talk about it. Hindu had that was one of his base ideas.
And that's
and
how
he
you
hurts
know,
your feelings.
No, that's how you know that Hindu is actually a villain. Like, hands down, he would opt to be the supervillain in any Disney movie.
Oh, easily. Without a doubt. As Fusify drops the ultimate, trying to catch anyone from the Papis, as Sibi along here as well. Sprint and the Camazotz ultimate used just to make sure that no one gets caught again. Burrito, they've got 5 members now that DeathPanter has respawned. They still have a minute 50 on this Fire Giant, Taco. Yeah, that kill on DeathPanter was big for the Papis, but in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really buy them a whole lot of time.
And they've got to repeat it. They have to repeat that same process, either onto Kespainify or find it again onto DeathPanter. The issue is that DeathPanter can probably wait out the next 19 seconds until his beads are up, and then he'll have both actives.
Kespainify down to half HP, but does have the Fire Giant regen, does have that Devourer's Gauntlet stacked up, so 2 to 3 autos on that back Harpies where he's going. Should heal him back up. Mid Phoenix is respawn, but not for long as it's already getting focused down. DeathPanter looking for the stun, finds it onto Creed. MrNazer right into the back line. Kespainify gets taunted in. Big damage onto him, but the shell was big coming out of Burrito. Mid-Phoenix almost falls. There it goes. DeathPanter almost knocks down Dheylo, but forces him back with the final judgment. Right side Phoenix respawned. Right side Phoenix dead again. Burrito knocked down the 2 weakened Phoenixes. Now the question is, can they get this left side Phoenix?
I'm not sure that they'll have a successful siege onto this left-hand Phoenix unless they're able to find a kill. This is a perfectly healthy Phoenix. The only issue for the Papis is that they do have fire waves pouring into their Titan room. They have to clear out these waves, which provides Burrito enough of an opening to start putting some pressure onto the Phoenix.
No Aegis on Burrito's carries. Keep an eye on the damage going into them. Big damage on a Creed from the stun. Dheylo leaps forward, has his ultimate up and available. DeathPanter again on that permafrost, almost taken down by the detonate. Dheylo will clean it up for his mid laner. Number 8 now for the Papis, 3 in total for Dheylo. Left side Phoenix did get very low here, Taco, but as did the Titan, down to almost 50% HP. But Burrito decide in a 4v5 that they don't want to take that fight.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Burrito look for the all-in engagement off of the next Fire Giant. They have the damage to do so. It's really just about avoiding Warchi and the Skadi.
Yeah, Warchi has made life very, very difficult for DeathPanter in particular. That permafrost has been tough to deal with.
Look at the damage output from Warchi and MrNazer. And the main reason why these fights aren't going in their favor is just because of the way that Burrito is utilizing these shells.
Shell has been huge for Burrito so far, no doubt about that. 2 shells on the side of the Papis as well, and they have also come up big at times, but certainly pretty noticeable for Burrito. Fire Giant due to respawn in 15 seconds. Papis gave up the second one. I assume they'd be giving up the third.
It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I mean, there really just isn't any point in trying to contest that Fire Giant. If anything, you're just going to definitely put yourself in like a 90% chance to lose the game trying to contest this objective.
I mean, you've already defended successfully once against it as the Papis, so may as well just go for it again. Will go down without any sort of contest. This is big, though. Kespainify has a red buff. That was stolen from the Papi side of the map. Now DeathPanter getting a red buff of his own. We saw Final Judgment nearly one-shot Dheylo. Now it very possibly will one-shot Dheylo. But keep in mind, there is a lot of protection for this Camazotz. He's got a Spirit's Robe and a Hide of the Urchin and that Mass Immune, giving him extra protection.
There's enough protection on the side of Dheylo, but I feel as though there's even more damage for the side of Burrito Esports. It's just incredible how hard a Thoth Final Judgment will hit between the Fire Giant and a red buff, and I'm sure he's got a purple pot as well at his disposal.
Warchi has got to be careful here. DeathPanter probably going to be looking for him as the Dharma Pillars come down. Final Judgment goes out, and it was for Warchi, but it missed the mark. MrNazer sprinting right into the back line, looking to help out. Dheylo, not quite enough damage to finish anyone from Burrito, and now it's the Papis on the run, trying to get back into their Titan room because the Titan is falling right now from the damage from those fire minions and Dzoni, who's just on the Titan all by himself. Look at Burrito. They're splitting up the Papis. Left side Phoenix finally falls as the Titan is the focus. Burrito Esports takes the game in 43 minutes, 10-8. Over the Papis.
That's the commit that I was waiting for from Burrito Esports. Took them the third Fire Giant to do it, but I mean, they were slowly chipping away at this Titan room, considering that they kept those Phoenixes locked down, just preventing Papis Titan from healing.
Look, the Papis had good defense after good defense, but at some point to win the game, you have to go on offense, and they never really got the ball rolling there. Papis were in the lead for some of that game, but for the most part, it was just very, very close between these two teams. I mean, everyone had a highlight moment basically on both teams.
It was all incredibly close, and I think it really just broke down to that one horrible team fight in mid lane for the Papis where they just got a little bit too baited trying to protect MrNazer, and DeathPanter and the crew kind of just cleaned up.
Yeah, DeathPanter on this Thoth looked really, really strong. I mean, the last team fight, sure, Final Judgment doesn't hit, but it doesn't mean that he wasn't putting out the majority of the damage for Burrito all game long, whether it was via Final Judgment, Hieroglyphic Assault, Evade and Punish, doesn't matter. Thoth does damage, and that's exactly what DeathPanter did today.
So as the mid laner yourself, Book of the Dead, second item Thoth. What are your personal feelings on that?
Book of the Dead is a really strong item no matter what. It's so expensive that you kind of want it on a god that's going to have innate lifesteal, such as Freya, such as Anubis, something like that, where you can really get a big benefit out of that 20% lifesteal. But if DeathPanter can get away with it and play like this, I've got no problems with it. I mean, 100 power in that second item slot, you're never going to be too upset about that. Certainly Burrito not too upset about taking game number 1 of this tiebreaker, the 3-way tiebreaker. Papis fall to 0-1. Victoria's Secret was waiting and watching. Now Burrito, they just need one more win. Papis cannot afford another loss. Let's take a look at the standings and see where we all sit.
And that's really the close part between these teams. I mean, little sigh of relief for Burrito, able to lock away at least one victory. They do only need 2 wins in order to progress to the next stage and ensure that they keep their spot in the SPL. But Papis, it's all on the line for these guys facing off against Victorious.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting to watch. Let's go to a quick break as we get ready for what could be the final relegation match today.
Hi, my name is Adrian Milone. In English, in Italian is Adriano Milone, and I'm coming from Italy. I'm 25 years old and I've been in the esports Italian scene for like 7 years now. The first 3 years were on Dota 2, and I just kinda had my training. I just started to cast some tournaments as an amateur, you know. And then I hit it big and pro with Blizzard when they actually noticed me from Dota. My community manager, Davide Gelli, noticed me and hit me up and said, hey, want to cast a little bit of, you know, Heroes of the Storm? And I was like, yeah, I can try. I mean, it's pretty simple. Heroes of the Storm, like 3 years ago, at that time I was also in beta, alpha, so it was pretty easy to just get into it. Salve a tutti, ancora una volta benvenuti al The Caster. Grandissima competizione, qualcosa di meraviglioso. Attualmente abbiamo 10 partecipanti, sono fantastici, sono pronti, sono preparati e siamo pronti a portarli qui sullo stage.